Okay, here we are, video number 3 here for this class. We're back to this person that had the fracture, and they're going to do an open reduction internal fixation. Now, we're going to read this whole op report because if they say something in their procedure, that may not be everything that they do. And this is especially important in ICD-10 because the PCS sometimes breaks things out. So we need to be aware of a lot of the terminologies that the doctor are going to be using in the operative reports. So right here, this patient, and I'm sorry if this is moving all over, I'm trying to read while I'm doing this as well. Patient with malignant hypertension and type 1 diabetes mellitus was anesthetized and prepped with betadine. Sterile drapes were applied, and the pneumatic tourniquet was inflated around the arm. An incision was made in the area of the lateral epicondyle through a steri-drape, and this was carried out through subcutaneous tissue, and the fracture site was easily exposed. This much tells us that this was an open procedure. Inspection revealed the fragment to be rotated in 2 planes about 90 degrees. It was possible to manually reduce this quite easily, and the judicious manipulation resulted in an almost anatomic reduction. This was fixed with 2 pins driven across the humerus. These pins were cut off below skin level. So they did the open procedure. It was a reduction of a fracture, and then it was an internal fixation because we put pins in. Now, one other thing I want to point out while we're looking at this report is it says on here, a long arm cast was applied. Things like this, some facilities will want to code that separately, other facilities will just absorb it into the major procedure depending on what it is that they want to capture for their statistics. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take you to the table for this code 0PS F04Z. Now I want you to notice my messy writing here, but you'll see that my zeros, I put little lines through, and my Z, I put a little line through. With the ICD-10-CM, the clinical modification that's used for the diagnosis codes, that uses both zeros and the letter O. It also uses the number 1 and the letter I. So I've gotten myself over the weekend into the habit of making zeros with lines through them. The nice thing about ICD-10 PCS is that we're not using the letter O and we're not using the letter I. So our zeros and ones are okay. But one of the things I found over the weekend was that I don't write the letter Z very much. My Z's look like 2's. I was getting confused. So I put a little line through my Z's so that I know what letter it is that I'm looking at and it's not a number 2, because that would be a completely different code. So let's take a look at this and see what it looks like in the ICD-10 PCS book. Sorry for shaking around a little bit here. Okay, we're looking for 0PS, and I think I just lost my post-it note, so just bear with me here. You'll see how at the top of each one of these pages it tells what section you're in, so you know about where you're going with things. We're at the 0G, 0K, 0M, 0P, J, and here we are. Okay, so we've got this table on this book, and I want to show you this. You might not be able to read everything on this the way that this is, but I'm showing you on this table how at the top we have our 0PS for the medical surgical section. We have the upper bones and reposition. Reposition is what the term is in PCS for reducing a fracture. We're repositioning the fractured site so that it's back in alignment. So what we want to do is we want to look down this first column here, and you see we have our humeral shaft on the right side. We have laterality again here. So we have that character or value F, and we've got it in this row too. So we know that we could be in either one of these 2 rows. So let's go to the second column for the approach. This is character number 5. Okay, well, we have the humeral shaft, and the approach here is external. Well, this was not external. It was an open procedure. So let's go down to, we found this F here. We'll go over here. Hey, there it is, open procedure. Then we have character 6, our device. And as we move down here, we'll see in this row that we're going across, number 4. We have an internal fixation device. That's that pin that we put in. Then our qualifier, character 7, we have to have 7 digits. We don't have any qualifiers on here, so we just fill it in with a Z as a placeholder for no qualifier. So this is how we are doing things in ICD-10 PCS. Something interesting that came up, I'm trying to get this to no glare, something interesting that came up was that there may be a procedure that's the same procedure, but the reason that you're doing it may make a difference in how you're going to be assigning the code. One example of this would be liposuction. With our liposuction codes, one of the things that's really interesting is that if it's done for medical purposes, then it's considered an extraction. You are extracting that fatty tissue. The other way you could be doing it is for cosmetic reasons. That would be the root operation alteration. So you see how that same procedure might be used a little bit differently. Another thing that's going to be a little bit different in this is when you're coding something like a colonoscopy and you're going to go, you're going to be doing a biopsy. Let's say that you did a full colonoscopy. You did a biopsy in the sigmoid area, but you went on up. Well, you're going to have 2 codes for that now because you have your biopsy that was done at the sigmoid area, but then you have your scope